Protestantism. The Reformation in Holland caused great upheaval. It led to a period of conflict known as the Dutch Revolt. During the 80-Year War, Calvinist forces fought the Catholic Spanish crown for Dutch independence. In 1648, independence was declared. And over the centuries, these various influences in Dutch national life, Catholic and Protestant, have fought for supremacy. These conflicts are played out in the architecture, in the schema, but also in the art that's displayed on the walls. It wasn't until 1876 that the architect Pierre Cuypers was selected, and he produced this elaborate, ornate, Gothic, Catholic building.
Cuypers himself was a Catholic, and this was during the time that the Catholics, for the first time since the 16th century, regained some power, some influence after the democratic revolution of 1848. And there was a new constitution in the Netherlands, and this constitution gave a bit more power to the Catholics. So this Cuypers person, he thought, okay, then I better go for it. And he designed so many churches, so one more for this museum, this National Museum, couldn't harm.
All museums in Europe are temples for the art, but he built a cathedral for the art. And at that time, the king and queen of the Netherlands were so angry that he didn't make a Protestant building that they said, we never set foot in this cloister, and they didn't come to the opening. During the entire 20th century that was to follow, the Dutch fought this Catholic building. So they painted in the front hall entirely white. They took out the wall paintings, they rolled them up, and in the 60s there was a director of the museum who said to the restorers, you have to cut them up and just chuck them. So it was really a hate against this Catholic Bastillion.
For me, Protestant means don't get too Baroque. Don't get too outspoken. Otherwise, we chop off your head, you know. And so the Protestant, you have to imagine, we were not allowed to have paintings in churches, decorations, like in the Catholic Church, you know. Dress in black. You're born in sin and you go in sin.
When we were renovating the museum, the architects said something, I think, very beautiful. They said, don't fight the building, you have to embrace it. And we decided to have certain parts where the building really speaks, and that's the front hall, where you have these massive stained glass windows and these historical scenes from the Netherlands. They're often Catholic scenes, but it's part of the multifaceted Dutch society.
I discovered this painting because it is not a wing you easily go into. It's quite dark and hidden. You know, I'm not looking at a painting. You're looking at a person, which I think that is real quality, you know, of artists. If you take your time and you look at this painting for a longer time, you start to get the idea that you know this guy. It was a guard of the emperor. He was gone to a religious place somewhere in Belgium with his boss, and they showed that he was a Christian, which was in that time also very important. I can fall in love with him. He's very proud, but vulnerable, which I think is an ideal combination. If you look at his eyes, he has a very soft look. He's wearing quite simple clothing, but very delicate. The leather gloves, they are also, you know, very detailed. It is the only painting left from the late Middle Ages, early Renaissance of a man with a dark skin color, which is incredibly rare.
The painting has an interesting role to play in the Rijksmuseum then, particularly in the 21st century, as it presents a more liberal and more enlightened sense of European history than perhaps we may have previously been aware of.
We started with the terminology project like 2 years ago, and we started it because of some descriptions we saw ourselves, and those descriptions are dating from, let's say, 1905. And we decided to get rid of all those old descriptions. And the painting, the Afrikaanse man, was previously called the Moorish man, and we got rid of this term as well, because he's a man from Africa. And Moorish doesn't say anything because it is a stereotyping title that was used for all kind of people from Northern Africa. So what we try is, if we get rid of names like Indians or Eskimos or Negroes, we try to find the actual roots of those people, so to be more defined in geographical terms.
If the Contemporary Art Museum has any role to play, it's to complicate our sense of history, not to reaffirm old certainties, but to undermine them, to challenge us, to push us to think about the world in new ways. The presence of this small portrait, this one man gazing at us from history, makes the whole edifice of white European legacy sit uncomfortably on its pedestals.
I've re-photographed this painting in my way, so not 100% imitating. The theme in my work is always liberty, sensuality, the skin. I think skin is an amazing subject in photography. I want to develop a language, my own language, that is partly loyal to the 18th century, the second part of 18th century, but partly also loyal to nowadays fashion, nowadays hair, makeup. I want to work with paintings from our heritage, so many of this is in the Rijksmuseum, but then in different proportion. So blow them up identically.
For me, the highlight of the collection is Jan Asselin's wonderfully bonkers Threatened Swan. This picture deserves to be more widely known. Pictorially, to me, it's a masterpiece. The swan's neck, foreshortened, whips out of the picture plane, and you can almost feel its disgusting spit on your breath, protruding into the space beyond the picture.
It is The Threatened Swan by Jan Asselin. It's very rare that you see a live animal in action. This painter must have been looking so well to swans and then make, let's say, a snapshot in his mind. Take that snapshot to the canvas and then translate what is in your mind to the canvas. Well, but that's difficult. Well, when you make a cropping of this part, you see it's nearly built up very abstract. You know, it feels very soft, and you recognize it as the small feathers. But when you only crop this, you could make an abstract painting of it. That is what I like about it. And then you focus out again, you take a step back, aha, it's the stomach of a swan. That is with the art of painting. You know, that fascinates me very much, that it has to build up, stroke by stroke, stroke by stroke, and then you have a feather. And then you build up, and then you have a feathery stomach of the swan. There's only one detail in the composition that intrigues me already many years. Why is the tip of the wing cut off? Why didn't he paint the animal just 2-3 centimeters to the left? My theory is that it is to enhance the power of the animal. To show that it's a huge animal. It even is so big, and he's so angry that it doesn't fit the canvas. But this is a thing that we use in photography. But photography didn't exist at that moment.
The painting was one of the first, perhaps the first picture acquired by one of the Rijksmuseum's forerunning collections, the National Gallery of Art. It depicts an allegory, the swan defending its egg from an angry dog, was read at the time of its acquisition and then subsequently had an inscription added which confirmed or at least cemented this interpretation, with the swan playing the role of protector, the political leader of the Dutch Republic. The dog represents the enemies of the state, and the egg itself represents Holland.
No, it is just a swan, you know. Forget all the symbolism. I don't give a damn about the whole political meaning because it's added later, and even in these days, they give it a new political meaning. Like the swan is the populist movement in our country that defends the Netherlands, and the migrants are the dog. You know, totally nonsense. I think that many people that create beautiful works just want to create beautiful works or interesting works that go as long as they live, you know? So, no, I don't see the political depth of it.
Ich finde die Tierdarstellung sehr interessant, weil genauso wie wir kulturell bestimmte Bereiche der Menschheitsgeschichte in den Bildern ausklammern, gibt es auch nur relativ wenig Bilder, wo ausschließlich Tiere, wo Tiere nicht als domestizierte Staffage für uns noch dargestellt werden im Bild, sondern tatsächlich der Bildgegenstand sind.
Nee, ist nichts für mich. Ich weiß nicht,